Welcome to Lotus on Track. We've got action from the Brands Hatch Lotus Festival to come, but we start at the legendary Spa Francorchamps circuit with action from the Lotus Cup UK. Let's hear from the drivers after qualifying.
Pole for the Exige class and fifth overall, so it's a good starting point for us. Obviously at Spa it's always a bit of a car breaker, so it's a long race for an hour.
Yeah, better than expected really. We came here worried we were going to get out-dragged on the straights by the Evoras, the new Exiges and even the 211s, but over the course of a lap, we pulled it together and really happy with pole.
I think it's going to be tough to stay with the Go Green car. The guys are driving well, and it's a car with a lot of grip. But we're going to give it a go, and an overall win is certainly on the cards.
The team last night put another new engine in, which meant I missed quali. I'll be starting the race from the back, so fingers crossed it's a good engine and I'll be able to make some progress up the field.
Well, Ken Savage with a lot of work to do, but a quick driver who may well challenge as the race goes on. A huge field of cars, and this then how they lined up, with Rob Fenn in pole position from Nicolas Ferrer and Guillaume Gomez. In the second row, Marcus Jordan, Steve Train and Gregory Rass. It was Jeff Milam and Steve Guglielmi alongside the Exige of Jamie Stanley, who shared a row 3. In excess of 40 cars took to the track for qualifying as they got ready for the start on the historic start. It was Nicola Gibson who made a good getaway, but also Gregory Rass in the white Evora, who jumped past Rob Fenn and took the early advantage from Fenn and Marcus Jewell as they negotiated the legendary Eau Rouge corner for the first time, asking the field, stretching back almost as far as the eye could see, despite from jostling everybody cleanly through for the first time. Heading on towards Radion in car Thomas Dehaib, you can see just how busy it is as the cars venture down the kilometre-long Kevon Straight for the first time. Slipstream of plenty. As they came through to La Source at the end of the first lap, this was really the point at which the race had begun to turn its head. Watch for the orange car of Marcus Jewell swarming all over the tail of Rob Fenn, braking very, very late for the hairpin. Contact with Gregory Rass, damage to Jewell's car, and also for Rass, who immediately exited stage right into the pit lane with damage to the Evora. It promoted Rob Fenn in to lead the race. Marcus Jewell trailing fluid. That was enough to catch out Jean-Pierre Genou-Prachet at La Source. Genou-Prachet was to recover. Thomas Dehaib a little bit later on to the scene where he saw the debris and the very, very slippery surface where what transpired to be brake fluid from Marcus Jewell's car leaked. We know it's brake fluid because the car then seized at the top of Eau Rouge. Marcus Jewell having a very unenjoyable but wild ride, slewing across in the face of the traffic, where he then had to sit tight as some 40 odd Lotuses picked their way past him. Fortunately, all saw the bright orange 211 and gave it evasive action. Well, as Gregory Rass exited proceedings, Ken Savage joined the fray. Savage, always a quick and competitive driver, just beginning to get on top of the 211 in the second half of the season. He worked his way past the stricken Jewell. Unfortunately, was to go very little further in the race. A real blow as well for Steve Train, his co-driver's championship hopes. Our camera car Thomas Dehaib also running into trouble in the early stages. Well, Ken Savage head down, charging on, but it was Rob Fenn who was able to take advantage to build an enormous advantage out over Jamie Stanley. Further back, some ferocious dicing as the black 39 car, Simon Deacon, kicking his way up through the field to eventual third place. As ever in the Lotus Cup UK, plenty of action to be found throughout the pack, particularly in the production class where it was Stuart Plotnick who eventually emerged as the class winner. Ken Savage gaining places, hands over fist. It was a storming drive from Ken, which eventually would reward him with 24th place overall. Very, very good going. Overtaken the better part of 20 cars. But at the flag, it was Rob Fenn who took the win, and in the end, in dominant fashion from Jamie Stanley, some 40 seconds was Fenn's margin of victory. Let's have a look then at the final results in the Supersport classes, with Rob Fenn taking the victory from Jamie Stanley and Simon Deacon, then Philippe Loup in fourth from Paul McNeely and BJ Chong. Jean-Pierre Genou-Prachet recovering from that early spin up to sixth. In the 211 class, it was Simon Deacon who took the honours from Luke and Jean-Pierre Genu-Prache. The open class, Rob Fenn victorious from McNeely and Chog, and then David Harvey once more on the podium. Exige Cup honours swung the way of Jamie Stanley, Matt Bartlett, James Knight, and then Phil Capstick. Jack Goff in the V6 Cup, it was Thierry Verheest from Nicolaj Ibsen and Gregory Rass. In the production championship, Stuart Plotneck claiming honours from another strong drive from Andy Napier with Marcus Nikolvic completing the podium from Adam Knight, and then it was Radcliffe and Dunn rounding out the top 5.
I knew I'd lose a couple of places on Kemmel Straight. I lost to Marcus and Greg Rass, but by the second lap there was a big accident as Marcus went into Greg, which opened a nice gap for me, and it was sort of melee behind, so I managed to build up a pretty strong lead, and we sort of held on from there, and the car was perfect.
Well done, Paul. Stunning first stint. But we brought the car home. Really pleased. Good team effort. Lads done a cracking job.
After a hard weekend's racing, time to celebrate on the legendary Spa rostrum. Opportunity for the drivers to receive the spoils of victories, posing for John Brandt from Snappy Racers on the podium before turning their attention to the rest of the season and the long trip home. So from the undulations of the legendary Belgian circuit, we'll now head over to Brands Hatch, the Lotus Festival, and Hayley.
Welcome to the Lotus Festival here at Brands Hatch. We've got a very busy weekend ahead of us, packed full of Lotus racing. As you can see, the weather is very changeable, so it's going to be a bit of a challenge for our drivers. Let's see the action.
Fabulous Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, a fitting home for Lotus Festival, which goes from strength to strength each year. Lotus on Track Elise Trophy races always a highlight of the weekend, and race 1 got underway in very slippery conditions as pole sitter Adam Gore was passed by teammate Jason Baker heading in towards Paddock Hill Bend for the first time, but look for the other car of Luigi Mazza, tagged into a spin, one of the expected front runners. Exiting very early from proceedings, Will Price also had a spin in sympathy as Andrew Bentley, who was the driver who made contact with Matson, was able to continue as the drivers tiptoed their way up Harewood Hill and through Druids for the fast time. Surface sheen glistening in the sunshine, already a drying line beginning to emerge on a couple of corners, but it made for very difficult going in the early stages as Nigel Ayres found out at Graham Hill Bend for the first time around. He was clattered by Andy Stanford. So at the front of the field, Andrew Bentley came onto terms with Jason Baker, doing battle over second and third. Adam Gore, meanwhile, begun to build an early advantage. Bentley racing this weekend with a broken arm. Well, it wasn't letting it slow him down at all in these early phases. Able to pick his way past the relative newcomer Baker, although Baker already a race winner in 2013 at Druids. Bentley then set off in pursuit of Gore. Eventually he reeled in Gore, and the crowd were all set for a battle royal as Bentley begun to ask all the right questions. As ever in Lotus Track Elise Trophy, plenty of action to be found further back as Neil Stottert and Matthias Radstock did battle for the final spot in the top 5. Bentley powered past Gore, who then slowed suddenly, hand out of the window, suggesting that all was not well with Gore's machinery. So Bentley able to build a big advantage. Stallion Gore unfortunately slipped back and was passed first by Jason Baker and then by the hard charging Craig Demon. The bright orange car of Demon always seems to go well here at Brands Hatch, and this race no exception. Moments later, Demon was in the slipstream of Baker as they sprinted along the Bramham Straight. Which side would he go? Eventually he plumped for the brave outside line, but found some dry track, found the traction, and through he went. Super move from Denman. Then set about reeling in Bentley. Meanwhile, Jason Baker in a very secure third position. Neil Livesey was, as ever, in the thick of the action. He and Steve Edwards having a good tussle. They were joined in that scrap by Graham Foley. Foley's been getting quicker and quicker as the 2013 season has progressed. Within minutes. Denman was on terms with Andrew Bentley and using the slipstream once more along the Bramham Straight, moved to that favoured outside line, but this time the passing move was completed almost before they hit the brakes into paddock. Bentley held his nerve to the inside, but Denman swept through and took the lead, a lead that he wasn't to relinquish. Battle for fifth though got increasingly fraught. It was Stotter from Matthias Radstock. They were both caught by Clive Willis. It was Radstock though who was able to move clear of Stotter and went through to complete the top five. So victory in the first of the weekend's Lotus on Track Elise Trophy races went the way of Craig Denman, with Andrew Bentley finishing as runner-up, and it was Jason Baker who completed the rostrum from Adam Knight, Matthias Radstock, Neil Stotter, Clive Willis, Will Price, Dan Plant and Phil Stratton-Lake rounding out the top 10. Tricky conditions mastered, it's time for the drivers to celebrate with the trophies and the champagne on the Brands Hatch Lotus Festival rostrum.
Hi Craig, first place, congratulations. Was it a difficult race for you?
It was, yeah. We had a dreadful start. The car just bogged down and I think I went back to 6th or whatever. But I managed to get through after the first corner calamity and just got my head down and just started picking them off one by one and got there in the end, yeah.
Well, that's it for part one, but join us after the break with more action from the Lotus Festival.